It was just another Tuesday in Pennsylvania, or so I thought. I've been a firefighter for 20 years. But some mornings, the air just feels different, heavy, like it's holding its breath. Then the alarm ripped through the station. Structure fire at the chemical plant. Multiple victims trapped. When we arrived, the sky was already bruised with thick, black smoke. The building was a skeleton of steel, being devoured by a hungry, orange beast. The heat was so intense it felt like it was peeling the skin off your face even through the visor. People were screaming, pointing at the third floor. Through the iron bars of a window, I saw a hand, pale and desperate, waving for a miracle. "We can't wait for the ladder truck," I shouted to my partner, Mike. "He's running out of time." We breached the entrance, and immediately, we were in another world. A world of shadows and fire. The stairs were groaning under the weight of the flames, and every step felt like a gamble with death. We reached the third floor and kicked down a heavy steel door. There he was, a man, collapsed, his lungs filled with poison. With the last bit of strength in his soul, he grabbed my jacket. "Please," he wheezed, his eyes glassy with the end of everything. Second floor. The back room. My wife. My baby. He went limp. We didn't have enough oxygen for everyone. It was a choice no human should ever have to make. I looked at Mike. "Get him out of here. Now." "What about you, Jack?" Mike yelled through his mask. "I'm going back down for the family." I descended back into the furnace alone. The second floor was a maze of fire. I found the room. The door was jammed, but I threw my entire weight against it until it splintered. In the corner, a young woman was huddled, shielding a tiny bundle in her arms. She had given everything she had to protect that child. I stripped off my own oxygen mask and pressed it against her face. "Breathe," I commanded. "You have to stay with me." I tucked the infant inside my turnout coat, right against my chest. I could feel the baby's heartbeat fast. Fragile, like a bird trapped in a storm. "Not today," I whispered. "You are not dying today." I carried the woman and the child through a corridor of falling debris. We burst through the exit just as the building gave its final roar and collapsed into a pile of ash. The woman looked at me. Her eyes filled with a gratitude so deep it was painful. "Take care of my son," she whispered before the world took her away. That day, the fire stole a father and a mother. But it couldn't steal the child. When I learned there was no family left to claim him, I looked at the little boy in the hospital crib. I saw the same fire in his eyes, a fire that wanted to live. "I've got you, kid," I said, my voice cracking. "I've got you." That was the day I stopped being just a firefighter and became a father. I still remember the first night I brought him home. The roar of the fire and the scream of the sirens were gone, replaced by a silence so fragile I was afraid to breathe. In America, we talk about the golden hour in Rescue, the window where a life can be saved. But for me, the real rescue began in the quiet hours of that first night, holding a child who had lost everything before he even knew what he had. My fellow firefighters called me crazy. "Jack, you're a single guy on a dangerous shift. How are you going to raise a kid with no past?" But I knew something they didn't. I knew that the way his father gripped my coat in that burning building wasn't just a plea for help, it was a sacred handoff. It was a dying man trusting a stranger with his soul. "Hey there, little firefly," I whispered as I rocked him to sleep. I named him Aiden, an old name meaning little fire. I wanted him to know that fire doesn't just destroy, it also warms. It also lights the way. Aiden grew up fast. He was a typical American kid obsessed with baseball, loves camping on the weekends, and has a laugh that can clear the darkest clouds. But as he got older, I saw the shadows. I saw his biological father's strength in his shoulders, and his mother's kindness in his eyes. I kept the truth tucked away in a dusty box in the attic, waiting for the day his heart was strong enough to carry it. That day came on a humid July 4th. While the rest of the neighborhood was celebrating with fireworks, Aiden walked into the living room holding that old box. Inside were the charred newspaper clippings from 20 years ago, a pair of tiny singed baby shoes, and a faded photograph of a young couple he didn't recognize. "Dad." His voice was a jagged edge. "Was this me? Were you the one who pulled me out?" The air in the room became as thick as that smoke from long ago. I sat him down and told him everything. I told him how his father used his last breath to save him. I told him how his mother gave up her oxygen so he could take his first breath of fresh air. When I finished, Aiden didn't pull away. He looked at the scars on my hands, the ones I got reaching for him, and he wept. But they weren't tears of sorrow, they were tears of realization. I thought I was an orphan, Dad, he said, gripping my hand. But I realize now. I've been loved by two sets of parents. One gave me life, and you gave me a reason to live it. I won't let their sacrifice be for nothing. That night, we didn't just share a story. We shared a legacy. We weren't bound by blood, but by something much stronger. A promise made in the heart of a furnace that would never, ever be broken. Years passed like a fast-moving current. And Aiden grew into a man who carried the weight of the world with a smile. On the day I retired from the force, after 30 years of fighting the beast, Aiden stood in our kitchen with a look I knew all too well. It was the look of a man who had found his calling. Dad, he said, handing me an envelope. I passed. I'm heading to the academy in the morning. My heart did a somersault. As a father, I wanted to lock the door. And keep him safe from the world. I knew the smell of burning plastic. The sound of a roof groaning before it collapses, and the nightmares that follow a shift. But as a firefighter, I knew I couldn't stop the sun from rising. You're sure about this, Aiden? You could be anything. An architect, a doctor, a lawyer. He looked me straight in the eyes, and for a second, I saw his biological father standing there. I want to go into the places everyone else is running out of, Dad, just like you did for me. I want to be the reason someone gets a second chance at life. A few months later, I stood at the graduation ceremony. When they called his name, I was the one who pinned the badge on his chest. My hands, now wrinkled and scarred, trembled as I fastened that silver shield to his crisp blue uniform. He saluted me, but then he broke protocol and gave me a hug. That nearly knocked the wind out of me. Be safe out there, son, I whispered. And remember, your greatest job isn't just saving lives, it's coming back home to me. Then came the night every firefighter's family fears. A massive blaze at a downtown high-rise. I sat by the scanner, my knuckles white, listening to the chaos. Then, I heard his voice over the radio, calm, steady, just like I taught him. Engine 4, we have a visual on a victim. Entering the structure now. The minutes felt like hours. But then, the local news showed a feed from the scene. Out of a wall of thick, gray smoke, a figure emerged. It was Aiden. He was covered in soot, his gear blackened. But in his arms, he was cradling a small child wrapped in a blanket. He didn't stop for the cameras. He ran straight to the paramedics, handed over the child, and then slumped against the side of the truck, gasping for air. When he finally took off his mask and looked into the lens of the camera, he wasn't looking at the reporter. He was looking at me. He gave a small, weary thumbs up. When he came home the next morning, smelling of ash and victory, we didn't need words. We sat on the porch as the sun came up. The cycle was complete. The boy who was saved by the fire had become the man who mastered it. The legacy of ash had finally turned into a legacy of light. In the end, fire is a paradoxical thing. It can consume a home in minutes. But it can also forge a bond that lasts for eternity. Jack and Aiden's story isn't just about a rescue, it's a testament to the humanity spirit, the belief that we are our brother's keeper. And that a family is defined not by the blood in our veins, but by the sacrifices we make for one another. As Aiden stands on the front lines today, wearing the same badge his father once wore, he carries more than just equipment. He carries the hopes of the parents who couldn't stay, and the love of the man who chose to be his father. Their story reminds us that even in our darkest, most muddled hours, there is a light. If this story moved you, don't let the flame stop here. Join our community of heroes. Hit that like button to honor the brave men and women who run toward the danger. Follow us for more soul-stirring stories that prove humanity is still beautiful. We want to hear from you. Who is the hero in your life that gave you a second chance? Share your gratitude in the comments below. Do you know someone who needs a reminder that hope is never lost? Share this video right now. Your one share could be the light someone else needs today.